guys.
Yeah, they're not
going
gonna
to
To
stop.
not use something like that is like that would have been in the hacker's handbook.
These bears, man.
I just don't totally understand the lack of use of, any kind of protection or anything, or I guess on the
So that's kind of what I think happened.
Awesome. All right.
conceivable that the U.S. government was capable of tracking something through that. Ha! Surprise! Everybody who listens here is a hacker. Maybe they are. Maybe the
The ninth Hispania.
Yeah, if you are a ghost of one of those.
but to not but then they should be smart enough to change their stupid passwords or like even just put an actual password on there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
And
That's dynamic.
Here's the other point to this is that the fact that he got into their system is a real thumb in the eye. You
Yeah,
know, that's really they've got
there's a little
some egg on their face,
Yeah.
and it's in. I'm not even gonna go.
Don't
there.
even.
Okay, well, Jack Squat. He was just going through personnel records that were real, and you want to know what we have? By God, somebody got in, and we got to make an example of them.
Absolutely.
No, let's be
and
fair. Somebody got in that we can track.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this and all other episodes available to.
so he found nothing,
Mhm.
but he claimed that he found something. So the question is, why did he?
Yeah,
And I can think of a couple of reasons why.
Oh yeah.
of course, is Thinking Sideways podcast. Game.
Well, number two, he's actually got some legal problems at this point in time, and he needs money for lawyers. And so by throwing out the UFO thing, you get a lot more people interested in your case, and so you actually create more possibilities that
But he did
somebody's
that
gonna-
from the start. From
Yeah.
the very
So did
start,
he- from the
from
very
the
start?
very start, he had the UFO angle.
Okay, so he claimed to be looking into the evidence for UFOs and stuff like that, but
Comment the other day on Facebook, we always kind of joke that no.
until after he was he was arrested, right? So. Right, but obviously not bright enough to cover his tracks. But he might have looked at that as a kind of a helpful legal defense, claiming that you saw one
We are on Facebook. We have
planet, and you saw all this stuff. You saw a picture of a cigar-shaped object and all that, like stuff like that. Might actually aid your legal defense somewhere down the line.
busy and fantastic.
Delusional.
Yeah, I don't think that's necessarily the track that somebody would take,
I guess-
and I don't think that would benefit you.
Well, for me, I can see the benefit of, throwing out all these things, kind of like just casting a large net,
Mm-hmm.
right? That like on the off chance that even one Excel document in one computer somewhere had something that could maybe even be construed
Twitter. It is Thinking Sideways without.
a lot of government agencies out, right?
Mhm.
That you could say like, yeah, that you're going to catch one thing that the government's trying to cover up,
Mm-hmm.
right? That might cause them to say, oh, don't release that.
Yeah. For episodes, get a hold of us at Thinking Sideways. The roll of the dice.
Yeah, exactly.
So
that
okay,
you're
I-
hoping that they are actually suppressing something like that, and that if they are, then it will benefit you. And
By the way, I apologize to all the people who.
they wanted to extradite him.
They wanted
Bad.
to, put him in jail for hacking, but they didn't seem too frightened about him divulging any information that he
Right.
got.
Yeah.
Well,
So-
mostly they had his computer. So like,
Yeah.
what is he
Yeah,
gonna do? He
yeah.
can't prove it either way. It doesn't matter.
No,
so.
evidently he had a bunch of other people's computers that he'd been working on. Those got seized. It took forever to get those back, but he never got his computers back.
Oh no, of course not.
Of course not.
Yeah.
And
But
of course, by the time you get your computer back, it's kind of like
it is getting a little insane.
It
There's
is.
we get a lot of emails.
So
So-
it's super
Yeah.
obsolete.
Yes. Well, that's the story.
Discourage you, please. We'd like your email.
No. I
Just
just
be
I want
patient with
and I just want to, I know that we've all kind of gone into this, but is there any last bit, your summation or your theory about what you think happened?
I think he made it up.
Be patient. and I'm telling people, I'm sorry.
Spaceships in orbit right now. Number one, anything like that is going to be impossible to keep secret. You know, I mean, just there's going to be so many people involved.
Letting everybody know that we are on Patreon.
Kind of visible all around. But also, we could have, even if we had perfect conspiracy in the U.S. government and nobody was talking, what about the Russians, the Chinese, and lots of other countries that track orbiting objects? How can they not notice these things, these 10 ships in orbit?
A worldwide conspiracy,
it's that
right?
big, yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
all the world leaders would have to know.
Well,
we'd all be working together.
Again,
EON.com/thinking site.
I a little bit alluded to this earlier, this whole, like, the huge problem time, and I really like aliens and I like UFOs and I like all that stuff, but for us to say, yeah, the United States itself is
the whole 9 yards to you.
Something to be said for alien technology, blah, 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 whatever. I think it's more likely that we're trying to develop things on our own.
You're going to go ahead and get out of here because
extraterrestrial, what Roswell is, what Area 51 is, who knows? But I think that UFOs in general can be explained away. There are other aspects of like alien Earth visitation stuff that I really like. But in terms of this, we don't have spaceships up there, guys. Like, we just don't. We don't.
I wish we did.
I wish we did too. Like, I really wish we did, but we don't.
And I really just want to go.
Sorry. I'm
sorry. Yeah, it's too bad, but yeah.
That it's possible that Gary found something. I don't think that is as extreme as he found, and actually all of the theories that we've talked about, a minuscule percent, like 1 or 2% of truth in the stories. Like, there's probably technologies like we've talked about that are underdeveloped. He might have found a little something, or he might have just found nothing, and the U.S. government is angry at Gary and is trying to just prove a point. I think that there probably is some truth in that there are technologies that are cleaner, but they're in their infantile stage that they're just not usable. So I think that there's truth, and I believe all of it, but I don't think. When I was doing the research, there's this process, and this is one of those things that people point at.
Does not compute.
Or a patent application that could potentially have some influence for energy, and there's a possibility that you're. Has been not denied, but suppressed is the wrong word as well, because we can't let it out there because there's possibilities.
Hello, human.
When you have that kind of patent, you file it in Canada first because they're much more liberal, and then by the time the U.S. Department gets a hold of it, it's too late, it's out there. Well, I can see that happening for uses for certain explosive technologies.
Or death rays.
Or something crazy, but I can't see that on anything that is verifiable and really, really solidly true. And
today by my sister Beans. Say hello.
Fiction, it's somewhere in between, and people get a hold of it.
Get enough record.
Potential for technology out there, and if you as a private citizen can come up with one thing that I guess provides for
we are taking over today
many ramifications and ripples that we don't pay attention to, that we haven't historically paid attention to, that we
going to present how often they don't get it right and how much.
Maybe we're going to take your patent into consideration as a huge publicly funded agency. We will test it. We will make sure that there's nothing wrong with it. Whether or not it makes it back to you is completely different. But, we live in a world where, like, doctors used to prescribe cigarettes to pregnant women to cure morning sickness.
And to relax them.
Yeah, and that was a thing because it just wasn't tested,
Sorry for the interruption. I've got
Just with anything that could have negative ramifications.
We actually have a...
Thing just reeks of that to me.
It does.
I don't know.
Yeah, so anyway, free energy, perpetual motion machines. His name is Bean. Hey, Bean. How's it going, buddy? What was I going to say? Oh, and the photograph that he saw. Let's assume for the sake of fun that he did actually see a photograph.
Uh-huh.
Well, NASA... Congress, and they do stuff like they do artist conceptions, some of which are extremely realistic. I mean, I've seen artist conception paintings and Photoshops coming out of NASA that looked really awesome.
Yeah, like their new
space
suits.
Yeah, and
that are like on Mars. Like the artist renderings, right? There's like men in spacesuits on Mars.
Yeah, and so it's not
conceptual
art.
art.
It's not beyond the realm of reason that he saw a photograph.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean it was a little unsolved mystery action.
Woohoo! Right, unfiltered and filtered. Right, it could also potentially mean at that resolution with that color.
Yeah, so this is something that's actually kind of
a high-flying bird.
It could have been that the stealth bomber was on the ground, and we didn't want to disclose that we serve as stealth bombers at that
there's a certain unexplained portion of it.
It's right, but there's a lot of simple answers.
I don't know, Occam's razor.
To jump to these grand conclusions.
Yeah, Occam's razor in my mind.
Well, I think
story. There was the ground.
Yeah.
Why don't you give them some pertinent facts? And send them on their way.
We're going to have a bunch of the links to this story. They will be on the website. Website, as always, is thinkingsidewayspodcast.com. If you want to go ahead and listen to the show, of course, all of them are on the website, but you can also go ahead and listen to the show on iTunes. When you're on iTunes, go ahead and subscribe.
Are we going to...
Oh, you want to do that?
Comment. We always enjoy those. And if you forget to download and you know it's that day, start from the top.
Yeah.
Okay.
Directly from any internet-capable mobile device. As long as
you're
not
Gary.
Yeah.
Rub it in.
Yeah. Now, of course, and find us. We're always trying to put stuff out there and keep things going. That's always fun. And last but not least, if you want to have a discussion with Dev,
I don't know our website, but to be honest,
you can always send us an email. Email address is thinkingsidewayspodcast@gmail.com. And I believe that's all our contact information. And I think, believe it or not, that's all that we've got on this particular show.
yeah, we stretched out as long as we could, but
Yep.
we can't go any further.
No.
Something's about to snap.
Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening, and thanks again for this listener suggestion. This was a lot of fun. Sorry it took me so long to get to it, but
Aliens, guys.
you think so?
Aliens.
Sidewayspodcast.gmail.
Thinking Side. You never knew. Stories of terribly just and understood.
I'm Steve. As always, I'm joined by
Devin.
And Joe.
and this is Thinking Sideways and
The podcast.
The podcast.
Yeah.
The podcast. There's imitators,
The one
but
and
this
only.
is the podcast.
The OG podcast.
OG?
Original? Oh my gosh.
I know what OG means. I'm just shocked that you're using it. Well, yeah, we just shattered that.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
Well, before we get into tonight's show, I just... This is the beginning of something special. It's very special.
Oh, Lord.
The show will be coming out on the first week of October. And for the entire month of October, since it's that month, that's
Okay.
Halloween spooky stories.
Yeah, like my story's going to be Casper the Friendly Ghost, fact or fiction. Yeah. But hang on, let me
Thankfully,
get
Joe's not going to. Now, I'm going to give everybody a little bit of a teaser, and that is that at the end of the month, we're going to be doing a show that is what I would consider kind of a big Halloween favorite.
I would say that's true.
Yeah, it's pretty scary
We've
stuff.
gotten lots of requests for it.
We have, and I think that's all we're going to tell people.
Okay.
We're just going to leave you on the hook. You're going to have to wait the next couple of weeks, 4 of them.
Mwah.
Yeah, actually, though, if you... Thinking Pog. Free Thinking Sideways t-shirt, if we ever start making them.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that
So please take a guess.
is it. And as they say, on with the show. Today's story takes place in Stull, Kansas, which is... You said it's about 10 miles out
10 miles
Lawrence?
outside of Lawrence,
Yeah.
Kansas. Yeah.
Yeah.
And whichever, everybody knows where that is.
Of course.
So, yeah.
Of course.
I do. Constantly berated by radiation.
And depending on the sources, this story has been around for anywhere from 50 to 100 plus years.
Wow.
So, yeah, although it seems to... Well, I'll talk about that more later.
Yeah.
Just quickly, though, let me describe Stull, because I got on Google Street View this afternoon and
This is
looked
his
at
favorite
it.
thing.
And, yeah, I know. And so it's a tiny little town of, I don't know, 20 or 30 people or something like that. Not very many people live there. And, by the way, when I was cruising through on Google Street View, not a soul was rated.
Well,
No, that was kind of creepy.
The story itself from this creepy little town.
Start that over.
In that town, and in that cemetery, supposedly,
Is a gateway to hell.
so here's the legend. In 18... the Stull Cemetery is located. And that church was eventually abandoned, and it fell into disrepair. Maybe part of which, according to the legend, opens up on Halloween, and from it emerges Satan himself.
Oh.
That's right, Old Scratch. And why? Do you know why?
Well, because
he
hell.
He wants to get a breath of fresh air, maybe.
Well, yeah, probably.
To
that.
reclaim the souls of the damned.
Well, there's actually a lot of supposed reasons why Satan comes out of this stairway.
Yeah. Okay, that's our studio cat, Chabuzo.
And this is kind of a laundry list of...
I'm sorry, is it just the one?
There's
there were
Halloween. There's the spring or summer equinox, supposedly. I mean, people account...
A young man is checking his musket.
Always at midnight.
Oh, I have such a problem with that time, but okay, sure.
Why?
Well, okay, so in pretty much all of the
I want to know what...
hour almost, the hour of the beast is actually 3 a.m. So it's always interesting when people are like, oh yeah, it's midnight.
Yeah.
Because that's like, for whatever reason, not nearly as like credible. There we go, is the word I was looking for. It's not nearly as credible or like mysterious and believable to me as when people are like, oh, it was at like almost 3 a.m.
Yeah,
I think it's got something to do with, the clock hitting and the night spinning. I don't know. There's all kinds of...
I want to get creepiness about it, or for some reason, just the very word midnight. Ooh.
Yeah. Supposed reasons as to why Satan himself comes out every night. The first is that the graveyard which the church is located on sits on... has his gateways.
Wait.
Run with me here.
Okay.
There's 7 gateways to hell on this planet. Suppose it just happens to be that Stull, Kansas houses one of those very spots.
So they just had the bad luck to build their church right atop of a stairway to hell.
Basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so,
They had a really bad surveyor.
I don't know. I would guess that there was some kind of like, oh yeah, there was a draw there because there was so much evil and they felt the need to cleanse it. But
and we'll go into some of that stuff.
Sure.
But let me just kind of run through this.
but you would think that Satan would put some warning signs.
Yeah, he's a real
he
warner.
wants you to build there.
Yeah,
All right, the
probably
next
true.
is that practice black arts, and they do this because of the fact that this place is a focal point for black magic. Again,
No.
We're gonna work.
planet, and also because there's a large pine tree on the grounds that was used to hang at one time witches.
I just feel like this is a chicken egg scenario.
Now let's fire the retros and get.
Oh right, sorry.
The tree has been in the graveyard evidently for decades, and up until several years ago when it was cut down. But evidently there was a headstone at the base of the tree, and the tree had grown up and around this headstone and eventually split it apart, which is something that people point to as evidence that it's an evil place.
That's just kind of what tree roots do. It's like,
Yeah, I know. Probably.
retros. Oh.
Dead witch who was at one time his bride, who's buried there.
Oh, I didn't see that one. I'm putting that on my list.
Before I get too far off, I'm pretty sure. Do either of you ever watch that TV show Supernatural?
No.
They did a reproductive.
Watch some
That's
of
about
it,
the two brothers who.
but evidently,
I saw that a couple of times.
there was an episode where they actually played off of this whole Gateway to Hell install.
Yeah.
And
they were like inside them. They were shutting the gateway to hell. They were closing it from. It was closed on them.
they were closing it to stop the evil
Oh,
from
they were closing
escaping.
it? Oh, nice.
I haven't seen the episode. I just happened to find something that related.
On it to
Yeah,
keep
I
it
think a
shut.
lot of concrete.
Yeah.
Okay. The next reason that Satan would be coming out at that location, he's visiting a son that he had.
Yeah.
Only lived for a few days, and according to the legend, as a werewolf and scares or chases people off of the grounds or prowls around the woods
How
and scares
many?
people.
How many super? Where are we gonna have links for that?
We're gonna have.
You got more?
Yeah.
Oh man.
Actually, we should tack a few more on while we're at it.
Well, let me before you
Let's grow the legend.
start working on these. Let me just give you the rest of them.
Podcast.com. Feel really sorry for Satan.
Next up,
Okay.
the legends, and this is again another reason that it's so haunted and so terrible, is that in the 1850s, the mayor of the town of Stull was stabbed to death by a stable hand in a stone barn that was on the cemetery grounds. And I'm guessing the idea behind that is that it's desecrations of hallowed ground. Sure.
Like the Indian grave thing.
Right, this is a hallowed site, and
Especially on top. Though. Is that 17 years later, but probably like 10 years later, they built a church on top of that building, so that's a weird. Like this, that's
Here, okay, so in the 1850s, the mayor of the town was stabbed, and that's what that attracted Satan to it, or it was the gateway was already there. So it's cool.
Perfect.
Bloopers reel. Here
Yeah.
we go.
Committing murder on hallowed ground.
Oh.
But was it hallowed ground at that
It was a
point?
cemetery at that
Yeah.
time, which
So-
is theoretically, according, is supposed to be when it's a some kind of a religious burial area. It's a whatever, I can't remember. It was Germanic people that had settled the area and had made the graveyard, and suddenly I can't remember whether they were Catholic or what.
It was in a barn on a graveyard, so
Uh-huh.
How does that make a difference?
I don't know. Wouldn't the cabbie have mentioned, like, oh yeah, there was a
Cool graveyard not far from where I live. It's a very old pioneer graveyard. Let's go murder somebody there and see if a stairway to hell appears.
Okay, on to the next.
8-foot.
Oh,
Thanks, Joe. Here's our next one. In the early 1900s, and I don't have a year, but this would be, between 19
No, there was.
we're looking at. A boy was accidentally burned to death by his own father while he was burning a field. So dad's burning the field, doesn't realize the boy's in the field, and it kills him.
The boy's too slow to just walk out of the field.
Or dies from smoke inhalation. I don't know for sure. And then a few years later, a man in the town was found hanging from a tree, and I have to presume it's that same
Tall tree.
8-inch foot tall tree. Road that was known as Devil's Road, which appeared on old. Not a modern road. You can't go on Google Maps and find it. But, some of the hype may be the fact that Stull is located.
Let me get my phone book.
Is that in the state, Stull is in the Topeka zip code, and that's evidently has the.
That's
Attracted Satan to the spot.
I'm guessing.
I thought
I'm not-
we're still. We're still.
This is on the laundry list of things that are built up around why Satan might be coming there. I can't point
So
to
he was
one.
attracted to the 666 postal code.
Yeah,
which
and-
didn't come into existence until when? The 1960s.
I don't know.
Yeah.
also, like, are we going to discuss the fact that it turns out that 666 is actually like a misinterpretation? Still has a phone.
Actually, one reason I have.
Do we? I don't remember what is the translation
Gosh,
correct.
I think it's like 661 or something.
Because they say, you can go to and just look up somebody.
It's not 666, whatever
no.
it is.
Yeah, I know that.
That it's a misinterpretation, and then
That reminds me. I saw this whole laundry list in this humorous. Because you find them and it's like 66666666 Social Security number of the beast. And they're ripped on the whole thing. You go to the page that says, "Hey, what's your credit card number? We'll sell you."
Reasons why Satan might be coming to this place. And I should probably just go ahead and say something right now, which is this story kind of has the feel of a very urban legend.
Yeah.
It's totally got the urban legend feel.
bit.
So I think everybody who's listening has probably figured that out by now, but I just want to say that, which is why I want to get all of these supposed reasons.
You guys know where to go.
I don't have reason to.
Just to drive to Kansas to go look at this place. Hold off a bit until we get to the end of the episode.
Yeah, because
Available to me. I'm gonna be honest with you.
I for my job.
exactly why he's going to that location, but one of the things that it's believed he's doing by coming out.
That's why he's always murder.
Souls in the area, and by the area, I don't know how big that is. I don't know what that denotes. Is that the continental U.S. or is that just that area?
Cool.
But he's gathering up all of the souls in the area who died of a violent death that year to then parade them around the earth for one more night before taking them back to hell.
Nice. Although, just because somebody died a violent death doesn't mean they're going to go to hell.
True.
Yeah. Of course, you never know. Maybe you do go to hell for dying a violent death. If you weren't smart enough to outwit your adversary, maybe God sends you to hell for that.
So, sorry, you guys were talking about something, but I was busy off in
I know. And there's somebody I needed to talk to for work.
616. Well, okay, no, I'm sorry. It's Google says it's 616.
I finally got a number that...
It's not a whole number.
They finally calculated it out.
A
Right
whole
on.
number. So I
This
guess
is the
it's,
world's hardest math equation.
You gotta love
technically,
science, huh?
I guess it's 6.
You're back, so I don't even know if that was his real number or not.
So so FYI, every listener, that is the number of the beast.
So it's 616.6666666.
Six repeating. Comes from and why a fraction is attached to it, but
Does the devil have a wiki page?
I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, we
Maybe.
should check.
Okay.
We'll look it up later.
Well, let's keep
Sorry.
going.
Sorry.
That's all right. I like that. Okay, well, and this is just more to add to the legend, less of a reason why Satan would come around. But thanks to his presence, evidently, strange things happen in the graveyard, and these are a lot of this is some. People keep saying that they are reporting strange moaning
Episode of Thinking Sideways.
graveyard. That church that was built still had a crucifix on the wall, and evidently on Halloween the crucifix would spin 180 degrees.
All right, let's try it again.
Me, and I also don't know that it would still be attached to the wall, but
You
hey,
would think
that's
somebody-
what people say is happening.
You would think somebody would have stolen it a long time ago.
You would. And
Oh,
Yeah.
gosh.
site has spawned and helped foster a lot of the stories and the legends. The church itself in the early 1900s caught fire for reasons unknown. I could never find out what caused the fire. It was never recorded anywhere that I could track down.
Probably caused by something flammable.
Or Satan.
That's usually, or it could have been Satan.
But after it caught fire, it stopped being used. And some
Okay, pause. Hello, welcome to another episode.
church themselves, in an effort to seal the gateway to hell,
Heart. Okay.
maintained for so long, the roof of the church actually blew off many years ago. Like in a big windstorm, just ripped off. So it's a
Can't even tell you.
Oh,
I remember that church.
Yeah.
But being open to the sky it seems to be one thing that helps. Witches and black magic are taking place
Well,
there.
yeah, because they can get in on their flying broomsticks now.
Yeah,
good
and
point.
they're not going to be seen by anybody when they're doing their practices. According to the stories, when it rained in the area, water would not fall on the inside of the church, but instead would run off as if the roof was still there.
Well, obviously the rain didn't get the news.
Severed feet of
Happening inside of the church, so this is kind of that poltergeist area. Salish.
okay.
And there was one guy who said that the wind was so strong it knocked him over and, quote, held him down and wouldn't let him up. Never heard that part. Nobody ever commented on the temperature, which was a little funny to me. For that same reason.
I just can't wait for the theories for this.
I know.
I just
But we. There's glass bottles. So I don't know if you guys had come across this, but
Yeah, I saw that, yeah.
yeah, some people say, and they are adamant about this, that if you threw a glass bottle at the interior wall of the church on Halloween, it wouldn't break. Or if you held two glass bottles in the shape of the cross and hit them against the wall, they wouldn't break. Which is a little...
Yeah.
say that, well, if you did throw a bottle at the wall and
Convenient. I just for a second, these kinds of stories are just the worst, right? Because you're like, well, it didn't break for me, but if it breaks for you, you're going. Fine grasp of physics, or feels like they want to do it, they are gonna go and it's gonna break, and they're gonna be like, oh well, maybe I'm going to hell.
Or I have a really thick.
There's always that, yeah.
Yeah.
Even beer bottles don't break as easily as you would think.
No.
I remember many years ago, I was out with a friend, and we were kind of bored, and so we decided to make a Molotov cocktail. So we poured some gasoline into a Rainier Pounder, which is a 16-inch beer bottle, which is actually not as heavily built as, say, a long neck bottle, like you find a Bud in or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Those have thicker walls than the old Rainier Pounders.
You shake your cat. For the love of...
rag in it.
Recording, I was like, whose phone vibrated?
And we light the rag on fire, and then we take the bottle and fling it fling it hard down the road about 20 feet, so it hits the pavement good and hard. And
Now it's the fucking cat.
yeah, so beer bottles don't break as easily as you'd think. But I have a theory about the origin of this particular thing.
Okay, let's hear this.
Yeah,
I'm curious to just. Glass bottle.
The glass bottle that won't break no matter how hard you throw it against the wall. I think whoever was doing it was some guy, probably in his late teens, early 20s, who was being a complete flaming and thought, I know, I'm going to trick all these people that go out there into smashing bottles and leaving broken glass everywhere. and so I think that's what I think it was.
Could be. Yeah. All right. Well, and we're not done here. Threads out there that say the name of the town was. Shut up.
Gotta hunker down.
Tull, and people are saying that the T was actually a K at one point, so it was the town of Skull. But the residents.
He's a taco guy.
From the bad deeds that had happened there, and throw people off from the trail of everything wrong that was done.
If you're gonna change your town name from Skull.
Yeah, really.
Maybe Scroll or Heaven.
Or how about femur?
I mean, really, the fact that you change one letter in your thing, that's probably not going to help so much. Maybe just be no, we're called normal now.
Well, no, they just weren't as creative in the olden days.
Apparently.
Evidently,
Maybe.
they didn't have the internets to help them.
So anyway, this guy, Peter, Kansas, was such a hotbed of black magic and witchery.
Evidently it is.
Yeah.
Okay. Satan appearing and the reasons that he is. But like I said, the gateway is supposedly located at the church, and it's supposed...
So... Paul Heinrich.
This is because it isn't used by people much, excluding Satan because he's not a person.
Well, fair.
But people
or
don't
witches.
use it.
Witches aren't people. Just say Paul Heinrich.
And scrub and all of that. But people say that if you do manage to find the stairs and you start to walk down them, and again, this is the story, you will lose control of your body, and supposedly it would feel as if another force was compelling you forward. Okay, and then the story diverges into two veins. Version 1 says that if you do... you'll never be able to come back.
I don't know how anyone would know that, but okay.
It's just beans again.
You don't walk down those stairs.
A sinkhole. Whatever.
The second version is that if you take the stairs and you descend to hell, it's gonna realize that much time has passed because yes, this place also causes lost time.
I just want to, all this makes me think about is Monty Python. Maybe this time of night, huh? I was in hell. Satan took me. Well, you're not in hell anymore. I got better. I came back.
I actually want to go check this out because I think it would be actually very cool if I could go visit hell, check it out, see what it looks like,
come back
and then come back. Really,
and then you would know if you needed to repent. Awesome.
If I knew that hell actually existed, I would clean up my act.
Yeah,
definitely.
All right, so I guess we're gonna take a road trip. Because you're coming back in 2 weeks.
You never know.
You're just gonna hang out for 2 weeks.
We could do it.
All right. So here's one thing to note: the church, it's not standing anymore.
Oh. Yeah, that's
it's
what
gone.
I hear. Yeah.
Evident. Who did this is in a little bit of conflict. The church was torn down.
Oh.
And there's versions that say, and good timing, Cap. Say they didn't authorize it and don't know who did it. And then there's other versions where it said that the property owners did authorize it, and they hired somebody with a big chunk of machinery, a cat or something like that,
knock it down.
to come over and just knock it down, and it collapsed. It just fell right down as soon as they got to it.
Yeah, and actually, another thing that I heard is that because there's houses right there. There's people that live right.
Sorry? I was staring out the window at that pesky.
Torn down. One of them had noticed that one of the walls had collapsed in a storm or something.
Well, for years, folks, to describe this to you, it was stone walls. It wasn't brick.
Yeah, stacked stone.
It was stacked stone walls, which when they don't have
Buy beans.
to fall over.
Well, especially if one wall or corner collapses, you really lose a lot of support and stability then. And so I think the owner probably just had it knocked down.
That same way, because some of the articles I've read say that they're quoting the owner of the property, but it's the internet, and some of these stories you can't really track to tell if that's really their source or not.
Yeah, well, actually another theory that I heard, well, actually I made it up just now. The owner wanted to build a retaining wall, so he needed some rocks.
You're obsessed with retaining walls lately.
I just love them.
That's because you want one.
Yeah.
Okay, well, here, we're going to go word legendary, is that a real word?
Yeah.
I think
not legendary, but legendary.
I think the word you want to use.
I don't understand.
Does not come to
Yeah.
According to this, the Pope visited the United States back in the 90s.
Well, he did. Let's be fair. That's a true fact.
He did.
Okay.
Entire state of Kansas, because he didn't want to fly over unsacred ground.
Well, let's be fair. Unsacred ground just means there's unsacred airspace. The air
doesn't make any
No.
Oh, the air above. So
Yeah.
you're saying it's like a giant column all the way to space of unholy ground.
Unholy
Yeah.
scariness.
all the way through the universe.
Well, all that's circulating around, all these stories are circulating around all of these things that we've just covered in however long it just took me to go through
30 minutes.
Yeah.
It's no wonder that every year, gads of people.
And you know that every single one of those people after he drinks his beer, has to run over to the church and try to get on Malaysian Flight 370. That's why we're talking so fast.
People coming to the graveyard every year. The graveyard is now circled with cyclone fencing. Mm-hmm. And if you look at this on Google, if you go to Google,
Stat.
around the entire thing.
Yes, and no trespassing signs.
And no
too.
trespassing signs. And every year on Halloween, the cops are there, and they
It's a real quick little update, a little bonus episode for you guys.
will threaten them with fines and jail time for trespassing on private property.
Yeah, apparently the locals are actually not real thrilled about this.
Oh, no, they hate this.
Yeah.
Let me just be very, very obvious. They hate this story because they have relatives who were buried in that graveyard, and there's a lot of vandalism that comes from a bunch of drunken young
70. There have been a few developments we wanted to bring you guys up to date on if you were.
headstones.
I'm sure it's not just that. I mean, like, we've just spent, the last, half
Claims that
family lives in this place for long enough. You know, maybe it was your, great-great-grandfather who accidentally killed that boy in a fire
and brought Satan upon the whole thing.
Where's that?
It's to the east of India.
Cool.
Yeah.
Exploited to be a part of Satan's grand plan? That's tragic.
There's people now, who have died in the last year who bear. It's not as if this is a historic graveyard.
The Australian government has actually said they don't.
In the last probably, I'd say 6 months, buried in this.
I mean, it's got some very old graves in there.
It does, but it's got some very new graves. And there are stories of people going there days after Halloween and finding the headstone of their loved one knocked over and broken because people were doing whatever they were doing and knocking stuff over.
Although,
Really?
How do you know it wasn't Satan that knocked over that headstone?
I was going to say it just shows them for, showing off their wealth.
Have a look. See.